Welcome to VERSED, the ASCAP Podcast. I'm Eric Philbrook. To quote a great Gershwin song, "Summertime and the living is easy." But not for everyone. For those struggling with mental and physical health issues, and the vast number of people just trying to process all that is going on in the world today, life can be challenging. Fortunately, our guest today is here to shed some beautiful new light on how music helps our health and well-being in profound ways. Dan Levitin is a neuroscientist and the New York Times best-selling author of This Is Your Brain on Music. His latest book, entitled I Heard There Was a Secret Chord, Music as Medicine, explores the healing powers of music and shows how and why it is one of the most potent therapies today. He brings together the results of numerous studies on music and the brain and demonstrates how music can contribute to the treatment of ailments such as neurodegenerative diseases, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's, to cognitive injury, depression, and even pain. But Dan brings so much more to his work than an incredible scientific background. He's an ASCAP songwriter and musician who has worked closely with music icons such as Joni Mitchell, Steely Dan, Stevie Wonder, Rodney Crowell, and many, many more. And he speaks eloquently about these topics from a music creator's perspective. I had the great pleasure of speaking with Dan about his new book, which, by the way, is also a national bestseller and was named one of Smithsonian's 10 best science books of the past year. Here's my conversation with the ever-engaging Dan Levitin. Welcome, Dan, to VERSED, the ASCAP Podcast. It's so great to have you here with us.
I'm delighted to be here, Eric.
So I know you wear many hats. You're a cognitive psychologist, a neuroscientist, a songwriter, an ASCAP writer, a musician, a record producer, and you are a best-selling author. You have a new book, I Heard There Was a Secret Chord. It's also a bestseller, so you're on a winning streak. But to kick things off, I guess I would love to find out from you, since publishing This Is Your Brain on Music in 2006, which was a groundbreaking work for many people who hadn't really dove into the brain and music and their relationship. What are some of the new discoveries that fed into this new book?
Well, it's a great question. This Is Your Brain on Music was written when I was just newly in the field, and I wanted to share with my recording engineer, producer, and musician friends what I had learned in the 6 or 7 years that I'd been a practicing neuroscientist of music. And I think the book is a nice snapshot of then. What I really wanted to write back then was something I think all of us who love music, which is basically anybody listening to this podcast, what we felt that seems kind of unscientific or metaphysical or spiritual. I think all of us have had moments in our lives where music seemed like the most important thing there was. It profoundly altered our mood. It helped us get through a difficult time, or it enhanced a great experience, like a wedding or a birthday party. And the medicinal side of things, what's going on that music can cause these changes in our brain. That wasn't well worked out in 2006, and it is now. So this is really the book I wanted to write then, but the science had to catch up with it.
What are some of the oldest traditions for using music as medicine to promote healing that you've discovered?
Well, so of course this goes back about 20,000 years. We've got shamans and faith healers and particularly in indigenous cultures, using music to cure injury and pain and disease and depression and all of that. Like many things that were done by indigenous peoples, there was no scientific evidence. Some of it worked when put under the scrutiny of the laboratory. Some of it didn't. Music is one of the things it does. And I think later on you and I will talk a little bit more about the more day-to-day emotional impact it has and what's going on in the brain when we're moved to tears or motivated to do something like an exercise workout. But on the medicine side, I think the best evidence that music is medicine comes from people with Parkinson's, who at some point lose the ability to walk, because walking requires a kind of a timer in your brain that tells you to put one foot in front of the other in a certain order and, at a certain time, and those timing circuits are degraded by the disease. But if you play music for someone with Parkinson's and it has the tempo of their walking speed, entire clusters of neurons synchronize with that beat, and then the person can walk again.
Wow, that's incredible. And what about Alzheimer's or dementia? I'm sure music has really kind of come into play in that field as well.
Yeah, so it's important to realize that music is a lot of different things. And it has different elements. So the rhythmic aspect of music is what helps in Parkinson's. It's the fact that music can invoke old, sometimes forgotten memories that helps in the case of Alzheimer's. So we know that the way human memory works is that the earliest memories to get in to your brain are the last ones to degrade. Mm-hmm. They're the most robust. And we often see people with Alzheimer's or profound memory impairment who don't know where they are. They don't know what year it is. They might not even recognize themselves in a mirror. And this is, as you might imagine, very distressing to them. Nothing makes sense.
Right.
If you put on music from their youth, it can invoke memory of that music and then a larger network of memories associated with being young again. And in that way, people with profound memory decline get back in touch with a part of themselves they had lost. And they come alive again in many cases. They reconnect, they feel oriented again, and they want to engage with the outside world now because this one thing in their life makes sense.
Right. So there's a chemical process that goes on when someone listens to music, but as you say, there's that emotional experience as well. What is it about certain melodies that trigger emotional responses in people the way it does?
Part of it we could talk, musicologically. We could talk about the great melodies and what they do. But it comes down to being very subjective and idiosyncratic. There is no one song everybody likes. There's no one song everybody hates. And even your favorite song, you might not want to hear right now. So when we're talking about emotional impact, we're talking about kind of a moving target. It's a song that's meaningful to you for no reason other than it was meaningful to you. It somehow reached down to your core and shook something in you. Some songwriters are better at hitting that than others for a large number of people. Sometimes it hits for just a single summer and then it's gone and you forget about it and you hear it again and you don't like it anymore. Other times it's a piece of music you can listen to for 50 years, or look, we're still listening to Beethoven hundreds of years later. So 200 years later anyway. So I think for our listenership, one of the things that I talk to my producer and songwriter friends a lot about is it the singer or is it the song?
Right.
And people say, oh, it ain't the singer, it's the song. But that can't really be true, because we've all heard songs we loved done in cover versions that we couldn't stand.
That's true.
And then there are songs we didn't think we cared about, and we hear a particular version, and it lights us up. Think about when Run DMC did Walk This Way.
Right.
And it opened up that song to a whole new range of listeners who couldn't relate to it before.
That's true. That's very true. So as a songwriter and a writer who has also done so much research, so much deep diving into this topic, is there something about music and its effects that is still largely a mystery to you?
I would say it's more mysterious now than ever.
And why is that?
It's just so... we figured some things out. We figured out that when you listen to music you like, It releases dopamine and opioids in your brain in the so-called reward circuit. Those opioids can help relieve pain. The dopamine can help motivate you to get through an exercise workout or just get up out of bed if you're depressed. We know that singing together in a group or playing music together releases oxytocin, which helps you feel more trustful and bonded to the people you're with.
Mm-hmm.
It's why oxytocin at political rallies and sporting events is such an important part of the music being there. It's that you have this tribal belonging sense. But the mystery is, why is it that some particular songs just work? And I don't think anybody knows, because you can take the top 5 songwriters of all time, and they didn't hit it every time. In fact, they hit it a minority of times.
Right.
It's a funny thing. In my own songwriting, I would say I studied music theory, and I studied lyrics, and I had very good mentorship from Rodney Crowell and from Joni Mitchell.
Wonderful.
But ultimately, in writing a song, I forget everything I know, and I just look for something that I can't define or describe. And it's like Roseanne Cash said, you hold up your catcher's mitt and something just lands in it, and then you run with the ball. And it's the same with writing books. I've studied writing, I took writing classes, but when I'm actually writing, it's like what they say about playing an instrument too. I mean, you know, if you're soloing, you're improvising in a jazz stage.
Right.
You and I met at Joe's Pub. I was probably playing there. Maybe we were hearing somebody. I don't recall. Do you?
I don't recall.
But I know that, you know, what we teach improvisers and what I try to do is forget everything you know about scales and chord changes and all that, and just so you have to reach a certain level of facility, but then you have to forget it.
Right.
And why is that? Well, here neuroscience comes to the rescue a little bit. Everything that you know about how to do something procedurally, if you focus on it, it falls apart. It's like trying to explain to somebody how to drive a stick shift or how to ride a bike.
Right.
It immediately falls apart. The art, the ability to reach people with a book or a solo or a song, I think comes from what Jung would call the collective unconscious. Mm-hmm. And whether that really exists literally or whether it's a metaphor, I think is irrelevant. But what I relate to is a song that comes from somebody's unconscious, not their consciousness.
Right. That actually brings up the existence of AI now, and now there is some of this, AI generated music, sadly, but yet what's missing from that equation is that human element. I think this kind of connects to what you're speaking about. There is something about the human subconscious that you can never replicate.
Well, the human subconscious is a dreamlike state. And dreams are fascinating. They are metaphorical, they're figurative, they work on big themes and small, and I think all great art does that. And yeah, you can polish it a little bit with deliberate craft, but ultimately I think the spark comes from a bunch of nonlinear stuff. It's connecting things that people didn't see as connected before. It's when Paul Simon, on the third verse of Bridge Over Troubled Water, sings, "Sail on, silver girl, sail on by." And he said he doesn't know where that came from. It's not linear. It doesn't go with the rest of the song. But for many people, that's their favorite part of the song. Or when Paul McCartney wrote, he was singing Hey Jude for John Lennon the first time. He's presenting it to Lennon. And he sings, "The movement you need is on your shoulder." And then under his breath, he says, "Well, I'm going to get rid of that line. It doesn't make any sense." And Lennon says, "No, that's the best line of the song." Because it doesn't make any sense. It provokes the imagination. So this unconscious process is something, and when you get to AI, I think that AI music right now is like those plastic flowers in a hotel lobby,
Right.
where at a distance they look pretty good, but then you get up and you realize they're a little too symmetrical, they're a little too waxy, they don't have a nice scent.
Right. So we've talked a little bit about when you're writing a song, what tends to happen in the creator's brain, but is there something that songwriters could keep in mind in terms of how a listener benefits from the music that they're writing that could be of value when they're writing?
Well, so here I would say the whole story bifurcates a bit. Because you've got the Max Martins and the professional songwriters, the Diane Warrens,
Right.
who are writing for the masses, and there is enormous skill and talent behind that.
Right.
And then you've got the sort of class of singer-songwriters, and I'm talking old school
Right.
models. You've got the Rodney Crowells, the Joni Mitchells, Bruce Springsteens, the idea that somebody's taking their soul out and ripping it apart in front of your eyes, kind of a thing, or exploring it, peeling back layers of the onion to get some core. I think for that heartfelt and sincere and exploratory kind of songwriting, songwriters have to be super honest with themselves. Am I getting to what I really feel? I remember I was writing a song once and I brought it to Joni Mitchell. And I had just broken up with a girlfriend, and we've all been through breakups. And what I experienced was sorrow, sadness, a sense of loss, but also a sense of relief, because really we wouldn't have broken up if things were good.
Right.
And a sense of hopefulness. But I couldn't put that into words. And so I had the line in the song, Eric, that said, "And I really don't know how I feel," which was true. Joni was furious. She said, "What do you mean you don't know how you feel?" I said, "I really don't know how I feel." She said, "It is your job as a songwriter to figure out, or nobody else cares about what the song is saying. It is your job. You better figure that out." That's powerful.
That is.
On the other hand, if you're writing a kind of a pop song that is going to play at a dance club and the motive is to get people dancing, not to get them into a dark mode of self-reflection or self-pity or any of that, if you're not sending a message of freedom like a Pete Seeger song, it's just dance or it's party, I think then the trick is to be true to your more social instincts. Look at what people are listening to and what they like and what's fun, and embrace that. And if you can throw in something that's poetic, like Ed Sheeran does, all the better.
So I'd like to bring this back to music and medicine, because it seems that we, as a culture, we're sort of looking for some of these ancient traditions to relieve sort of the stress of our modern society. Like, it seems meditation and some of these sort of ancient forms are more people are open to them now. Have you seen a shift in the health field, the field of medicine, where the use of music or something like this might be embraced on a more widespread scale?
Yes, and this is really one of the motivations for my writing the book, which was that I wanted to put in one place about 4,000 evidence from 4,000 different studies that I had read, and I'm hoping that it will appeal. My aim was for it to appeal to just casual listeners, working musicians and producers, as well as public health deciders, in government, in the healthcare industry, whether it's an insurance company or a hospital administrator, physician, or nurse. I hope that there's something in there for all of them. And what we've seen just in the last year is that the state of New Jersey, Blue Cross and Blue Shield for the state of New Jersey, the health insurer there, now cover music interventions, music therapy as a covered treatment. I've been working with the White House Science Office for the last couple of years on trying to establish a common set of objectives for music medicine research, and we're hoping Francis Collins, who is spearheading the effort, former head of the NIH, we're hoping that legislation will be passed that Medicare will cover this.
That's great. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, my favorite story about this is that in Massachusetts, the state gives out vouchers, 12 vouchers to any citizen of the state of Massachusetts who requests them for preventative music and arts therapy.
How does that work?
The idea is that you don't get sick in the first place if you're in a good mood or you're exercising, which music might help you to be motivated to do, and or just dealing preventatively. We know from research I report in the book that music boosts your immune system. Listening to music, playing music. And so the vouchers go to the people in Massachusetts, and the money goes to musicians who otherwise, might be having trouble earning a living. Sadly, as you know, 70% of musicians in our country are making $10,000 a year or less. So here's an opportunity for a musician who'd otherwise be busking or, slaving 3 hours at a nightclub to earn $75. They can actually get paid to do their work.
Wow, that's incredible. I hadn't heard of that, and that's sounds like a nice blueprint for a greater embracement of that.
And it should be bipartisan. It should not just be a blueprint, but a red print.
Right, a red and blueprint. So to wrap things up, you're such a busy man. You've got so many hats that you wear. How often do you get to write, create, perform? Do you make that part of your existence these days?
I do, and it's just joyful. Last Thursday, I did a show at the Mint Club in L.A., in Hollywood, with one of my favorite musicians, George Deering. About 2 weeks before that, I performed some of my songs in Miami with the wonderful, heavenly jazz pianist, Shelley Berg. A month before that, I was at the Kennedy Center performing one of my songs with Renee Fleming. Oh, there's actually a video of Renee and I doing that song called Just a Memory with Victor Wooten on bass and Hardy Hempel on piano. And just, I make time for all of those things every day.
Awesome. We'll make sure to include a link to that in the show description. Well, thank you, Dan. Thank you for being an ASCAP member. Thank you for all this great work that you've put out into the world, and we'll spread the word and let all our members know about all this really great insight that you've created.
Thank you. It's nice to see you again, and thank you for having me on the show.
And let me know the next time you're in town and playing a gig, and I'll come out.
Fantastic.
Hey ASCAP family, have you downloaded the ASCAP mobile app yet? Music creators are always on the go. With the mobile app, you can take care of all of your essential ASCAP business wherever you are. The app is loaded with features. You can get a snapshot of your latest royalties. You can register a song you just wrote, even before you leave your co-writing session. Our guided registration walks you through the whole process step by step. Or you can use Data Health Check. It's so useful, it scans your catalog and finds missing metadata that can help you get paid. And there's so much more. Events and career opportunities, how-to articles curated based on your interests, and lots of insights into where your music is getting played most. With the ASCAP mobile app, managing your ASCAP music is in your hands. Download it for free in the App Store for iPhone or Google Play for Android. Find out more at ascap.com/mobile app. Well, that's a wrap for this episode. I want to thank Dan Levitin for being our special guest, and I want to thank everyone who made this episode possible. Sarah Feingold and Eitan Rosenblum for editorial support, Tiffany Sims for graphic design, Holly Grace Jamili for social media support, MXM Tune, Rosaline Scher, and Kellen Pomeranz for our theme music, and Benjamin Keynes of Sight Sense Productions for audio and video editing. If you like what you hear on Versed, please tell your friends. Comment on our YouTube channel and share the podcast to help us grow our community. Thanks for listening. Keep the music flowing.